Okay, so hey, how y'all doing? My name is Caitlin, and today I'm gonna talk about the inner child and how to heal the inner child. Now, most of us is unaware of what the inner child is, and I like to refer to the inner child as like the energy inside you, the soul that's inside of you, the vulnerable self, the authentic self, the self that saying the subconscious mind self. I like to think of that as like the inner child. And so we have an inner child and we have an outer child. And the outer child is more like the protector. The outer child is the one that acts out the fear and the hurt from the inner child. You know what I'm saying? So the outer child would be pretty much you, the person that carries out the orders. And so when the inner child is hurt, the inner child tends to, you know, act up and do things that are not aligned with its, saying authentic self. We have a tendency to abandon the inner child, you know what I mean? And we abandon the inner child because we place a lot of our focus on outside things, external things that, really it really is not conducive to our growth, you know what I'm saying? So like say when you're in a relationship, right? And this person has like neglected you, has abandoned you, you know what I'm saying? Most people sit there and the grieving process, that's very important. Don't get me wrong here. The grieving process is very important, but most people tend to linger or, saying, hang on to the person that's neglecting them instead of, redirecting their focus on their self, healing their self, people don't once your focus is on the other person, in all reality you're really neglecting yourself. The same scenario that's happening to the inner child, you know what I'm saying? Now, like I talk about subconscious mind a lot, you know what I'm saying? And when you have a wound inside your head, like say if it's a abandonment wound, you're only going to attract situations that show you this wrong wound, that displays this wound. So, you know what I'm saying? The inner child has, attracted a situation like this, but it only attracted this situation to let the outer child know, the outer adult know, hey, I need your love, I need your support, I need you to, refocus your attention on to me so I can get my needs met. And once you get your needs met, you won't be looking outwardly to things to, to please you, to accommodate your needs, to to help you to get your needs met. So the inner child and outer child healing is very important. um, we tend when we're hurt, we tend to respond with the outer child, and the outer child is more like the protector of the inner child. And so when we have a scenario, say a scenario like there's a bully, right, and he takes your cookies, right? The outer child, the outer adult tends to respond in the situation like that, saying like, hey, give me back my cookies, you know what I'm saying? And most people respond from the protective side, the outer adult, you know what I'm saying? But the best way to respond, the more authentic self, the more authentic way to respond would be responding from that inner child and allowing yourself to be vulnerable and saying, hey, I didn't like that you took my cookies. Those cookies belong to me. And, I really wanted to eat those cookies. So can you please not take my cookies? That would be the best way to respond from the inner child, the vulnerable side of you. But most people, they most likely, respond from the adult side. And so we need to practice ways, or we need to practice, you know, we need to practice ways that we are responding from our inner child, our most authentic self, the vulnerable side of us. And so, like the inner child, you know what I'm saying? The inner child is the one with the wounds. The inner child is the one that's hurt. You know, the inner child is what we suppress throughout our lives. You know what I'm saying? Every time that we are abandoned or we are rejected, you know what I'm saying? Which is triggers. We have triggers, you know, that bring up these emotions to be integrated. Every time we are abandoned or, you know, rejected, we tend to act it out. We tend to act it out, you know what I'm saying? And allow the inner child to go unnoticed, and we need to change that. You know what I'm saying? This is why we practice techniques such as self-love and, you know what I'm saying, learning our self-value, because, you know, this is how we heal the inner child. This is how we redirect the focus. You know what I'm saying? When we love ourselves, you know, or when we put up boundaries, which is also a great thing, you know, we protect that inner self. You know what I'm saying? We protect that vibration. You know what I'm saying? We heal that vibration. We allow that vibration to fully express itself, you know, and that's us. You know, that's, you know, we're not the bodies. We operate in these bodies, but we you know, we're not the bodies. So I don't know. The inner child is so important. I think people need to get closer to their inner child, you know, and heal the inner child, you know, because that's what's going to improve your growth. That's what's going to benefit you in the long run. Thank you.